Hey guys, welcome to another video. Now in this video we're going to try and make the Civic a bit faster. Quick recap, in the last two videos we had the car on a dyno. It made really good power considering it is just a stock 1.5 with a big turbo from a JCB probably on it. We also managed to fix the head gasket issue we had for good this time, so the cheap gasket hack thing really worked. So as you guys can see, we don't really have any issues with the cooling system. It is perfect, it doesn't trap air in there anymore, and it doesn't push any coolant into the overflow. So that's fixed, really happy with that. Car's running really good now, however we do have a shifting issue now. I have figured out that it is the master cylinder over there for the clutch. So that guy over there, it doesn't really work. About half the travel of the pedal on the clutch does nothing, and then the rest of it is fine. The reason why I didn't know it was that, because the car actually drives fine. If you're not redlining it, it drives fine and it shifts fine, and you won't know that anything is wrong. However, as soon as you redline the car, then it doesn't want to shift into the next gear. So you have to wait for the RPM to drop. As soon as it drops enough, it will go into the gear. But by that time, you have lost all your boost and spool. And then you are pretty low in the RPMs in second gear. And you have to re-spool this big turbo with this 1.5 D series. Basically just meaning most of the time you're not in any sort of boost or power band. And then that actually makes the car, quite slow. It is still fun to drive because you have all that lag and then suddenly it's boosting. So it makes for a fun car, but not a fast car. And of course we want to take this car racing, and if it doesn't shift into second gear, we are just going to embarrass ourselves. So in this video we are going to fix it. I'm going to change out the master cylinder. I'm not going to show you guys actually me doing it, just because I have to lay in the footwell of the car. It's very awkward and you can't see anything there anyway. But I will explain quickly and briefly how you do it. Now, other than that, the last time we drove the car, the bolt came out of the shifter. So the bearing on this shifter actually failed. This is some kind of aftermarket shifter, and the bearing in here actually failed. Also, this is a very short shifter in actual length, so you can't really feel by just touching the gear lever in which gear it is, which sometimes become annoying. So I'm going to opt for a bit of a longer one, which we have over here. Now, I bought a whole bunch of stuff to see if we can fix the problem for, really cheap. This is all just eBay and Amazon stuff, really cheap stuff. So I'm going to install some of it, see what works, see what doesn't work. Okay, so this is what we got. We have a knockoff K-Tune shifter extension. We have a kind of cool forged carbon shift knob. Now the one thing I did not know about this is that it doesn't have the numbers on top. It does show that it doesn't have it in the picture, but I didn't think about it when I bought it, so I just bought it. I do still think it looks cool, but I think I'm going to go with this one. This is just a Skunk 2 one. It is full aluminium, and it is just black, and it does have the numbers in red on top. They do look very similar, the same shape. This one is slightly heavier, and I do think this one fits my build a little bit better, so I'm going to go with this one. We do also have this single bend shifter, and it is aluminium. It's much lighter than the one that was in the car, which was this one. This is a steel one. It's very heavy, but it is slightly shorter, and then this one is slightly longer, so you will have your shift knob sitting a bit higher, and that makes it easier for you to actually determine which gear your car is in when you're just touching the gear knob. Because with this really short shift, I would sometimes think I'm in third and then I'm in fourth, so I'm trying to go from third to fourth, but I'm already in fourth, so I'm just end up pulling on the gear lever, which was a little bit annoying. Now we do also have a shift boot. These are quite cheap, but they do look like really nice quality, and it is just the bright gradation fabric. Now the shift boot is in the car in really good condition, so I don't think I'm going to use this one for this car specifically, but we are going to use it in the future. Okay, so here we have everything we're going to use to fix the shifting issue on this car, and here I have a B series transmission just to show you guys. So here you have the shifter. This is just a factory shifter, and of course here's the replacement one. Now what makes this a short shifter is the distance between this hole and the ball. It is slightly longer than the factory one. So if you look at the factory one, there's the ball and there's the attachment point. So if you hold it like this, you can basically see this one is much longer than the factory one, because the ball is at the same position, but this one is much lower. So that is obviously what gives you a shorter throw on the shifter. Now this is the one that was in the car, and it was a bit shorter than this one. Even though the throw is equal, the shifter itself was shorter. Now this is a B series bushing, and this is a single cam D series bushing, and this one is the same between D series and B series. It bolts on over here, So this bolts to the chassis and holds the shifter in place. So you actually just slide this off and then you slide this one on here. Problem is this is flared, so it is quite tricky to get this one on. What you can do is heat this up in boiling water. It'll make it a bit softer, and you can also use a plier to just close up the flare a bit on this one, and it'll make it easier for this to slide on. So that'll help you with the stability of the shifter, I guess. And this is the bushing that holds the shifting mechanism to the transmission. Now that guy bolts in over here, so you take this bolt out and you can see here's that bushing. You take that one out, you heat this one up, you force it in there, and then you just put the bolt back. Now to get the shifter out, you can see these two rivets at the bottom. There's two 8mm bolts. All you do is you take those two out and this whole thing will come out with this casing. The casing needs to go onto this ball, and then you just slide the whole thing back up. Now as you can see, this rubber normally attached to the chassis. If you are not careful with this, you will rip it, and this basically blocks out heat and noise. So it is quite important to have this rubber. Unless it's a race car, then you probably don't need it. Now here's the master cylinder. You have two bolts under the dash, and that connects to the pedal. You take the pin out, you undo these two bolts. You have one hard line, one soft line. You disconnect those, and you can pull this out and put the new one in. There's a bit of adjustment here on the pedal, so if you don't like where that clutch engages, you can adjust it up or down by adjusting this. Now this forged carbon fiber gear knob came in this little box, which kind of looked like it was an accident. This one came in this Skunk 2 branded box. However, considering the price I paid for this, this is definitely a copy or a fake knockoff, but it is, it is really nice. It does have the logo on it etched in there, and it also has these numbers in red. So I'm going to go with this one. Now in here you have different size threads. You have a big thread and a small thread. We need the small thread. Now the top of this thing is small threaded, and then they give you this little extension to extend the small threads, which is what we need, because as you can see, this one fits on here nicely. Now their idea for installing is they give you this nut. Now what you do is you put this nut on here, you put the gear knob on there, and then you lock them together using this nut to basically lock it into a position where these numbers are perfectly aligned. Now I'm going to show you guys a trick so you don't actually have to use this nut, because this nut is quite, it's not a really good quality, and secondly I don't really like it because you can sometimes see it. So this is a really hard plastic. It normally comes on furniture as a little foot piece. I cut the corner off it and then I put that in here. So now you guys probably won't be able to see it, but in there at the top is a piece of hard plastic that I got from here. And that is how the OEM one works. There's a piece of rubber in there, and then this thing just bottoms out, and you can align it by just twisting it, and it'll bottom out on the rubber piece. So it'll give you a bit of play. So I already have it installed over there, and this one is the dual bend. So as you guys can see, there is a bend actually coming back and then bend to make it go straight down again. Now one thing that was annoying me about the previous one was, because it was so short, the shift boot would actually sit like this. So the shift boot actually goes down and doesn't come up. Where on this one the shift boot can come up, and then it just looks more OEM, it looks more normal this way. So that's why we went with this one. It's a bit longer, and also it throws the gear knob out straight. Now here's the gear knob. I have the little thread extender in here. You don't really have to use this if you don't want to, but it's not going to be a problem for me to use it. And I do have that hard piece of plastic in the top there. You won't be able to see it, but there's a hard piece of plastic in there. So I'm going to show you guys how this now actually works, and then how to keep that boot from actually dropping down. Okay, so to do this, you'll need about 2 or 3 elastic bands, and you just wrap it around the gear knob until it's big enough for the shifter to actually get stuck on the rubber bands. Okay, so I'm trying to do now to see if I can do a first to second gear snap shift, which was problematic previously, so let's see if we can do it now. That's much better. Okay, so that's a lot better. It went into second gear, no problem, where previously it wouldn't go in if you had high RPM. You'd have to wait for the RPM to come down, and then you drop out of boost and your car ends up being slow because you have to build boost again in second gear, which is not an easy task in this car. Okay, so here we have the normal shifter. This is the dual bend one, and of course here we have the extension. Now this is quite a nice part. It has these 3 grub screws to hold the threaded part in. I can't see that being an issue. You also have these 2 to hold the extension part. Now it is on a very short setting at the moment, just because it is going to actually already make it this much longer, so I don't really want to feel like I'm driving an 18-wheeler when I'm just driving my Civic. But it's basically going to go on there like this and then extend it up to here. So you could possibly make it a bit shorter. You still have a bit of play here, but I don't want it to start looking funny. So I'm going to install this part quickly, and then I'll take it for a test drive, and then I'll tell you guys what I think about the shifter extension. Now visually it's quite nice. I'm quite happy with this product, considering it's not that expensive. It's quite cheap. I don't think it's a real K-tune shifter. This is probably just a copy one. Normally the branding gets removed after a while, so the ones you guys buy will probably not have branding on them, but I mean overall it is quite nice. And considering the price, I'm quite happy with it so far. I'll link it in the description if anyone's interested in this part, and I'll also link this one in the description as well. Okay, so here's my honest review on this shifter extender. It does work, it does do the job, it does extend your shifter quite a lot. In fact, it is now level with my climate control. Where normally the shifter sits down here, it's now all the way up here, and it is almost at the lower setting, so you can go much higher. You can also rotate this towards you, so you can bring the shifter slightly closer to you if you rotate this. Now I do think this is a bit excessive. I don't think I'm going to use it because I already have the long shifter. So adding this onto it just is a bit crazy. I do like the knob. This is quite a nice forged carbon fiber knob. Now this can actually also help you avoid shifting into the wrong gear, because as you can see, that is first and that is third. Now they are very far apart now, where if the shifter is down here, they're much closer together. So if you are scared of shifting, you know, from second to first, this will pretty much eliminate that, because shifting it into third, you just push it forward, but to go to first you have to go all the way to the side, and then second is over here, then you have third and fourth. So I mean, they are very far apart. This will reduce your odds of doing a money shift by quite a lot. Alright guys, here's the final setup. I do think it looks really great. I'll probably end up using this for the foreseeable future of this car. It shifts really good compared to how it used to shift. And the only complaint I have is basically when I grab the shifter, you can see a part of my hand is touching the shift boot, and touching the soft shift boot's a bit annoying. I'll probably get used to it really quickly, but if I don't, what I'll do is I'll buy a longer shifter. Now you do get these shifters slightly longer. You do also get these carbon ones in a slightly longer shifter. So if I were to rebuy everything, I'll buy the dual bend shifter again. This is the single bend one, it's slightly shorter. So the dual bend that's in here is slightly longer, and I do like the fact that now the shift boot actually comes out, where previously the shifter was so short and we had this long knob on it, pushing the shift boot down even more. So the shift boot was actually just going down, it never came up out of the plastic part here. Overall, really happy with this, considering what it cost. I'll put on screen how much it was. Shifts great, shifts into every gear now. I do think that the master cylinder we changed out do have a lot to do with it. However, overall, the aesthetic of this is really nice. The shifter from Honda is actually really good. I don't really like the fact that it's like a plasticky thing or a rubber thing. The K-tuned one, not really for me. It's a bit crazy, it's a bit too much, and it makes the throws too long. If you do want to use this one, I would suggest buying the whole shifter. You get this as a whole shifter unit, and it has a straight piece of shifter that goes into the bottom here. Don't just buy the extension, buy the whole shifter. Then it won't be as long as it is now, and you'll have a lot more usable adjustment before the whole thing starts to get too long. Like in my case, it is too long. The carbon shift knob's really good. I think if I don't get used to touching the shift boot, what I'll do is end up buying a longer one of these carbon ones, because this looks really great, and these are not really expensive. I'll link them in the description below as well. So I mean, overall, I'm really happy with the outcome. I'll have links to everything in the description below. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.